My experience in high school was probably early experience of not completing and finishing something. Um, my journey to high school in general was one that was non-positive. You know, our family was basically grew up poor and struggling. And I would probably say the reason we were struggling is because my father was an entrepreneur who basically had to like hustle up every sale. And he fortunately had 5 kids. So it was a lot of work trying to hustle up every single sale, with 5 kids. We were Muslim and he was a proud man who believed that essentially, we should go, build our own community, produce our own products, make our own money and be independent, which is really what I believe in. But during that time, we were struggling a lot as a family. So obviously leading up to middle school, I didn't want to go to school, and that bled into high school, right? We didn't really want to be there. We were poor. We were struggling. We were Muslim. My name was Arafat. So in many ways you didn't fit in. And so in high school, it was the same way. I was in high school, didn't really date in high school, even though I wanted to. I just didn't, because the reality is I barely even wanted to be there. And when you're young and you're developing, your identity, you tend to compare yourself to the rest of your peers. And early in middle school, I would notice that my name, the way I act, the way I was raised, the way we used to pray, all these things basically communicate to me that I was different. And I said this earlier, when you act different, when you think you are different, then you act different, then people perceive you different and then ultimately treat you different. And so that's kind of what was happening. And I'm starting to notice for the first time in middle school, early high school, that I am different, that I wasn't necessarily doing the things that the majority of the kids and my peers were doing. And the only thing that I was doing that kind of gave me some type of confidence about that, at these young ages, you're trying to develop your identity. I think the only thing that really gave me that confidence was the fact that before that, I was playing basketball a lot on the street and I was pretty good at it. And like, there were some kids who went to school with me that knew I was good at it. And they were all like, hey, are you going to try out for the team? So I had that little crowd of people who that was my little area where I fit in. But of course, in high school, you got your kids out there skipping class, trying to, have sex with the girls and all that stuff. And obviously, eventually in 9th, 10th grade, I was interested in that stuff too. I just didn't do it. I just felt like, I felt different. Keep it simple. I felt different. I was noticing that I was different. And when you notice those things and you feel those things, you change your behavior. You're defensive. You're not as quick to engage because you start to notice, hey man, the way I was raised was different from these people. I thought all along I'm just another guy, but apparently I'm not. If people are like being super curious, hey, well, how'd you get that name? And they're asking me all these questions I didn't understand at the time. But what they were really doing was basically saying, hey, you're not like me. Whatever, the way you present yourself, the way you talk, the way you act is slightly different than what we're used to. And basically that's what I was essentially experiencing. Obviously, when you're in middle school and high school, especially early, you don't really know that all the implications of all this stuff. But basically, that's what was happening to me. People were asking me these questions. I was noticing all these different things about the people around me. And I basically didn't have a good high school. I didn't have a good high school career. I mean, the truth is, I think I was like skipping class all the time. I didn't want to be there. I remember we had some teachers that would literally let us skip class and just go sit in their class. It was like this really cool dude. That was I think it was a history teacher. I would literally skip like the classes I didn't want to go to that I found boring and go sit in his class. And I would do that like almost every period in the 9th grade. And it was another teacher. I think she was an English teacher named Miss Montgomery. She was young, like 22. We thought she was hot. So we would go sit in her class and talk to her as well. And so I was doing a lot of horsing around. The truth is, what I was doing is I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in school. There was no target, no goal, because the reality is at home, we were barely making it when it come to eating, and really there was a lot of struggling going on. So the focus wasn't put on, hey, let's get through this high school before you can get to college. There was nobody who went to college. There was really no plan. The truth is we were in school because it was just something we had to do. It was like a daycare. This is what you do. You're a kid. You have to go to school by law. So you're going to go to school. And basically we were sent to school with no plan. And I think without that plan and direction, you don't really get to take advantage of high school or college. So there was no plan. Like a lot of kids, there's a lot of kids that are just up there because you have to do it. It's daycare for their parents. That's what it was for me. And so high school wasn't a good experience. I didn't get a lot of the developmental, things that people get from high school, going to the prom, starting the date. I didn't get any of that in high school at all. And I think that really impacted me going into the regular working world as an adult, because a lot of people start developing their identity there. I mean, there's kids who play basketball. They're kind of jock of the school. They date the girls, and you're able to start developing your identity early on as a young person. So when you get out of school, you're 25, 26, you meet the girl, maybe you're married, all of that stuff plays into your sense of self and you pacing with your peers in your growth and emotional growth. I didn't get to do that. I felt, like I said, I ended high school with, I think, a principal basically telling me, hey, look, you just got in a fight. You've been not coming to class in general. You're getting older. He basically said, hey, man, you shouldn't come back to high school at this point, because I'm going to need to send you to some type of alternative school to make up your hours during the summer. He's like, you're wasting your time. Just go get a GED and go to college. And so that's how high school ended for me. And that's how me being an adult in the real world begun. So me entering the real world begun from a place of failure, essentially. Like, you didn't get that feeling like, hey, I went to high school, I went to prom, I played sports, I graduated, and then I looked to what's next in college. That's a positive. It's not perfect, but it's a positive outlook to entering the adult world. Mine entered with, hey, you're wasting your time. I'm basically asking you not to come back to school. And that's how my adult life started. So that was my experience in high school. It wasn't a great experience, but I think that in life, every story starts somewhere. And a lot of times our stories start from a place that we don't get to control. The truth is, most of life, significant portions of life, are fate. Fate in the sense that you don't get to control significant variables that are going to affect you in a significant way. And that's something that we have to come to learn and come to accept in life, that there's going to be things that are of significant nature that's going to set the direction or trajectory of your life. And at the end of the day, you won't be in control of it. And part of life, and this is what I'm learning now, is coming to terms with that, figuring how to adapt with those truths, learning how to not fight them so hard where they make you ineffective, and keep moving forward. And so that's how my high school days went in my life. They wasn't great. When I look back on them, with not really with regret, but with the recognition that, hey, a lot of these negative feelings I had, a lot of the opportunity to gain confidence and self-identity in a positive way didn't happen in high school. It's part of my story. It is what it is. And we keep moving forward. Thank you for listening.